This video is brought to you by Sporlan, quality, integrity, and tradition.
Today we've got an exhaust fan that we're replacing. The whole thing is out of balance. Should be a like-for-like replacement, so the crane should be here in about a half an hour. I've got someone downstairs trying to find power so we can isolate it and shut it off. And we're gonna start disassembling. We're trying to get everything ready as fast as possible so the crane is in and out of here. So I'm all disconnected. The hinges are disconnected. We might use the same hinges. I don't have a super hinge for this one. Electrical is pulled aside. We may use the same disconnect switch because I like how it's external, but it just depends. But yeah, this guy's ready. So I'm waiting for another tech right now. I have a couple guys downstairs unloading the new exhaust fan in the trailer. And then one's gonna come up here. We didn't get a giant crane, so it's not gonna set it right here, but these things are super light. So we're just gonna carry it to the edge of the roof because the crane's gonna be setting up over here. Yeah, and that's where we're at. Again, it's all about being ready and being prepped. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody has a job, you know, and they're gonna do their job, and then that makes this whole process go smooth. All right, I was a little concerned because this fan is not identical. Now, I trusted the fact that I was told it was right, and you gotta be careful about that. So the model number on this one has a 13 in it, which typically indicates the wheel diameter. This one has a 15 in it, but the wheel, for whatever reason, is actually bigger on this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with it. So the height is taller and the width is the same, even though it says 13 on there, which I always thought was the wheel size, but maybe it's not. The wheel size is actually a 15, I believe, and it's the same as this, but it's actually taller than this one. So this fan should be moving more air, so we may have to adjust accordingly. But regardless, we're gonna go with it. The voltage is right, the horsepower is right, the phase is right, the curb is identical, so we're good to go. We're gonna keep proceeding. We're gonna lift off this one right now. So we got the fan and it looks like it's gonna work. We're gonna end up replacing some conduit, probably cutting it a little bit shorter. But yeah, it's looking good so far. We're gonna put the disconnect right here. Conduit comes out of the disconnect in through the breather hole and then around the fan into the motor, so that way there's plenty of room to pull the motor out to service it if need be. All right, we got 3 people tag teaming this guy right now. We're going down to check phase rotation. If you're smart about these, don't try to pull the motor out, pull the whole bracket out, and then it works perfect to hold in there while you're wiring it up. Now we're gonna check phase rotation, make sure that's right, and if that's correct, then we'll drop it back down, tighten it up, and then we're gonna adjust the speed as best as possible, and then they'll have to get test and balance out to dial it in perfect. But we matched up the pulleys and everything, so it should be relatively the same, even though that wheel's a little different though, but they said that this fan is the equivalent, so test and balance will have to play with that a little bit, but I'll dial it in as best as possible and check current and stuff. All right, so our motor is low voltage because this is a 230/460, okay? So we're running about 211 volts. So according to the low voltage guy right here, brown, orange, and black get wire netted together, right there. Brown, orange, black. Then purple and red go to line 1, right here. Purple, red, line 1. Then tan and white go to line 2. Tan and white, line 2. And then line 3 would be pink and blue. And then it actually turns out to be blue. So we're gonna test the rotation real quick. As long as the rotation's correct, we'll tape them up, get them pushed back in there, and put the fan together and start it up. Okay, so we're going around, we got everything in here, but we're double tightening everything. So we got the tension set, but the pulley's not lined up correctly, so we're gonna lift up this one, tighten that, and then we're double tightening everything. I had a wheel come loose on one of these in like a year, 2 years ago, and I don't want that to happen. So we're just double tightening everything, just double checking. And you can see the way that we ran the conduit, it goes around and loops back in, seal tight, and then that way we can pull the motor out to troubleshoot it. So that way it's not too short, because there's nothing worse than getting in here and not being able to service the motor, right? So I put my information right here. This is the RLA is 4.4. We haven't turned it on yet. Well, we know the phase rotation's correct. We also had to adjust the motor pulley, and the keyway wasn't getting engaged properly. So we had to pull the set screw out, flip the keyway over, push it down further. The way that it was, the keyway was sticking out a bunch, and the set screw was actually going underneath the keyway as it came from the factory. So always want to double check that stuff, you know, stuff happens. And then last but not least, We're gonna double tighten these guys right here, because this is actually what I had come loose one time and it was a nightmare to get it back on by myself. So we're gonna double tighten that. We've got the cables put on. We ended up moving the grease trough to the other side because of the orientation. But yeah, everything's good so far. We used the same style hinges, but we used the new ones. I like using super hinges on these, but you know, we didn't have that today, so it is what it is. All right, it is running in the right direction. We are running under current. We're allowed to run 4.4 and we're running 3.4, so we're good on that. So we're gonna turn it off again. One thing that I did do, now this will eventually come off, but I marked the rotation on the pulleys for the next guy, just so that way he doesn't have to struggle, right? There's a couple marks saying what direction they should go. There's also a big sticker down here, but over time it'll disappear. But these will disappear over time too. But yeah, that's it. We're gonna put the cover on, turn it back on, give it to them, and then test and balance can come in and adjust the speed and balance it out if need be. So they have room to increase the speed if they have to. Now, normally, if the fan was like for like, it would be super simple. Just match up the pulleys and you're good to go. But because the wheel's a different size, yeah, test and balance is gonna have to adjust this. I don't have the tools to do it, so. All right, we are all done. Plenty of slack in the conduit. Everything's cool. Cables are secured, and you can see, like, I even secured this because I didn't want it to get caught on anything, so I just put a fender washer and a tech screw just to hold it in place. All right, that's all good. Looks like we got a screw. You always want to clean up your messes, do a walkthrough when you're done. Did the same thing over here with the extra slack. Hinges are good, so we're gonna wrap this one up.
It's kind of frustrating because, and again, it's all learning lessons or whatever, things that we can improve on. But when I ask someone, hey, is that exhaust fan correct? And they say, yes, it's correct. I expect people to be 100% correct when they say that, right? It's frustrating. You don't just stop at the Cube 180. That's a green heck fan. Cube 180 is like the model, but there can be different variations on that, and you have to verify. So I would have appreciated had we said, you know, yeah, it's the numbers here aren't the same, and then we dug into it. It all worked out, and it all ended up being okay. But this is why I have trust issues. So we had a discussion about this, and we worked through it. And we just, you know, I let everybody know, like, look, when you guys verify something, you need to be 100% accurate when you say it is correct, because there's a lot of variables that can screw everything up on these jobs. I mean, you know, we've got 3 guys here. We've got a crane. We've got a trailer. There's a lot of money involved for us to get to the job and realize that the exhaust fan is not correct. That is very frustrating. So it all ended up being okay. You know, no harm, no foul, you know, everything worked out. But we, you know, did bring to the customer's attention that they need to get test and balance involved. Whether or not they'll actually do that, I don't know. But, you know, that's at their discretion. You know, they get to choose to do that or not. It's always best, you know, we always recommend whenever we do exhaust fan changeouts or AC changeouts that they get the test and balance company involved. If you guys don't know what the test and balance company is, they are technicians that are specialized in measuring airflow, and especially in weird situations like exhaust hoods and different things like that. I've always wanted to get test and balance certified, and it's not just a certification though, right? Because I mean, I can measure airflow. I'm not, you know, I don't do it all the time, so it's going to take me a lot longer than a test and balance or a tab technician. But there's also specialized tools, okay? Special flow hoods. In the situation of an exhaust fan, it's not an actual flow hood. It's actually the manometer from the flow hood, and a special attachment for the manometer that you put up against the hood filters to measure the velocity of air moving across, and then you have to do some calculations. It's a whole process. But regardless, it's always best to, when you write up quotes, and we always tell customers when we're changing air conditioners, exhaust fans, you need to get a test and balance company involved after we are done, because that is not what we do. We're mechanical contractors. We go in there, we change the fan, and then you get the test and balance company to come in and do it after. So it's always something that I've wanted to get involved in, but it's just not something, I mean, maybe one day or something, who knows, you know. I am doing a little bit of research and getting very just preliminary research into the building science side of things with my own home HVAC replacement, but Again, similar tools, but different process. So we got the fan installed and all went well. But as you're doing these jobs, at the start of the video, it's so important that you have a plan when you discuss that plan with everybody on the job site. So everybody knows what they're responsible to do. I had one technician, his job was to stay downstairs. He hooked up the exhaust fan, he unhooked the exhaust fan, he loaded the old one in the trailer, so his job was to do that. I had another technician that was floating between downstairs and upstairs. So he went and helped the guy downstairs, lifted the old exhaust fan into the trailer, right? Then he came upstairs and helped me lift the exhaust fan across the roof. I stayed on the roof the whole time. I directed the crane. So it's all about teamwork and everybody knowing their jobs. If they just walk up to a job like this and everybody's just running around, it just makes things more confusing. And when you have an aerial crane involved, it's so important that you are safe. You have your jobs laid out, you have your safety meeting, everybody knows where they should be. And again, it sounds so silly, but every single crane lift that we do, I remind everybody, do not put yourself in a dangerous situation. Do not walk under the load. Stay away from the load as much as possible. The crane, and then I'll even discuss, like, I'm going to have the crane swing this way and out this way and over here so people know, like, hey, stay out of that area. So it's just about safety. We want everybody to go home. We want everybody to be safe, and we want that crane out of there as soon as possible, okay? So, discussing the job, giving everybody their things that they need to do, and then it comes to starting the exhaust fan up. Again, everybody needs a job. Instead of multiple people trying to do multiple things, I put one person wiring the motor, one person, doing the hinges, one person doing, so it's very smooth when everybody has a job, okay? So in this situation too, a couple things I wanted to cover was the disconnect switch. Now, what I ended up doing was, that's a Greenheck exhaust fan. Greenheck sends an internal 3-phase switch that mounts inside the fan. I really like that external disconnect switch that was on the old fan. So what we actually did was took the new 3-phase switch, just the inside, and we put it in that existing square D switch box because it just accepts a 3-phase switch and it just has a mechanism that opens and closes it. So they did get a new 3-phase switch. We just used the old housing, and then we did new conduit. That's another thing too, is whenever I'm changing exhaust fans, if I have power off to the exhaust fan, typically the conduit is cracked and old and broken. We change the conduit. Okay, and then we ended up shortening the conduit because it was way too long anyways. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the hinges that come with those Greenheck fans, but we did not have my favorite style of hinge, which is made by a company called Omni Containment. It's called a super hinge. I have no affiliation with them. I just really like their product. But we didn't have any of those, so we had to use the fan hinges that came with the fan. And, they work. It's okay. It's just not my favorite thing. But other than that, everything went good because everybody knew what they needed to do, right? And we all worked together. Myself, whenever we do these jobs, I always schedule my guys, whatever time I schedule them to be there, I myself, and this is just how I work, am usually there anywhere from an hour to a half an hour before everybody else. I like to get to job sites. Now, I typically don't, like I had another guy pick up the trailer, right? So I went by the shop in the morning. I made sure, the exhaust fan was loaded in the trailer. It was already there, but I just verified, went through the office, made sure I had all the electrical conduit and different things that I needed. And then I get to the jobs early usually. That's just how I work. I'm a person that has to be places early. I think it's because when I was a kid, my family was always late everywhere and it just messed with my head. So now I just can't handle being late. So I always like to get to the job before everybody, walk the job, get things prepped, so that way when they get there, it's already time. Like I'm ready to go, like, hey, okay, this is what we're going to do. And that's another thing too. The way that we work and the way that I appreciate my guys to work, this may not work for everybody. But when you arrive at the job site, it's work time. It's not time to wake up and stretch. No. The moment you get into your vehicle and you're driving, it's go time, okay? We're there to work. So I make sure everybody understands that. When you pull up on that job, it's go time. It's not time to like mosey out and wake up. No, No, when we're there, we're there. We're on the customer's dime, right? They're paying us. We're there to work, okay? So, I encourage everybody, you need to wake up early for work or whatever. You need to stretch. You need to drink your coffee. That's, coffee. Or for me, I drink coffee when I'm driving to the job site. But the moment that I get to the job site, it's not like, okay, gotta kind of just wake up. And no, that's not how things work. We're there. We're working. Boom, So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. These aren't too difficult. It's just following the steps. And if you follow the proper steps, if you think logically when you're doing these jobs, every time I do one of these jobs, I'm trying to be efficient, right? Okay, crane is going to lift up the new fan first, right? But we already have the other fan to the edge of the roof. We're thinking ahead. We're being prepared. We're trying to be as efficient as possible. Give the customers the best bang for their buck. Okay. I really appreciate you making it to the end. As I always say, it is so awesome and so humbling to have the support from everybody. I am just dumbfounded that you guys, we're going on like 5 years, I think, of these videos. And it's still crazy to me that you guys like to watch these videos. This is just the way that my brain works. That's literally all these videos are. I'm just sharing the way that my brain works. And it's still so humbling. I'm so thankful for all of you. Okay. If you're interested in supporting the channel, consider subscribing to the channel, right? That's one of the easy ways. Check out my website, hvacrvideos.com. We have merchandise available. We have hats. Actually, we did run out of hats, but I have them back in stock. So we are good to go on the large, extra large hats. They're back in stock. Feel free to go to town if you tried to order them. There was just a brief 2-week outage or whatever. Those are back in stock. We have shirts. We have women's t-shirts, V-neck t-shirts for women, all different stuff on the website. So check it out, hvacrvideos.com. Other ways to support the channel, you can support it from PayPal, Patreon, YouTube channel memberships. If you're interested in purchasing any tools, check out truetechtools.com. Get a lot of my test tools from them. I have an offer code in a big picture, one word. If you use that, you get an 8% discount on checkout on almost all the items on their website. There's a few that you don't, and I get a small commission when you do that. So it's just a great way to support the channel if you're looking for any tools. So check that out. I really appreciate you, and we will catch you on the next one.